Welcome back to the Goatworn Armcast. Back at it again with myself, Goatworn Armband, Guthrum of Norvik, Just Eastern Things, and Shire Reeve. And oh my god, somebody took a sharp on the field. Fuck me. So, inevitably, there's only one thing we could talk about this week, and it is the fallout of that video.
Some absolute tea.
Absolute tea, primo salt. Jesus, titty fucking Christ. So, context for those who are only a little aware, who are not aware at all. Last year, at an event, someone took the field with a sharp, a Hanway axe. Is it? I believe
One of the crappy Indian ones.
We'll put up a picture of it here. Took the field with this, and the story's been going around for a little while that there are headshots that happened, somebody was injured, but only recently have people found not only photos showing that 100% the axe was sharp, but video as well, which, I mean, well, we've just got to play it for you, and then we're going to give our thoughts, because it needs to be seen to be believed. So yeah, there is a lot to unpack there. The video quite clearly shows the moment where not only was someone knocked out, but that person received a 5-inch gash to the back of their head.
Yeah, it was a pretty serious cut, from what I remember.
There's just... I'm at a loss, almost, to say... Where do you start with that? Because
you get the fuck out of reenactment. You don't fucking
yeah.
You obviously aren't doing reenactment, because you're not reenacting anything. All right, get the fucking alarm. Go think it to yourself. Go do something's not right with you. Think they're going on the field and running around like an absolute fucking idiot, hitting people on the back of a helmet, even in Eastern, big no. Is acceptable.
Even in HMB and the full contact plate armor stuff, where they're wearing fucking back of neck protection. I know a number of people from HMB that have came and said, yeah, that's not fucking right.
I mean, that's something that I'm almost pleased about. Is that, I mean, this video, by the way, 22,000 views, well over 100 shares, so it's going places.
That's within, what, 3 days?
Yeah.
It's up now. It's actually at 22,000 views, but it's actually reached 33,000 people.
Jeez.
My God.
So the good thing is that the unanimous response to it has been, that's wrong.
There are a few, but they're mostly people associated with the society. Group. Yeah.
I was about to say that most people, like, I would say, bar like a handful. Bearing in mind, this has gone out to thousands of people, and I can count on one hand the people who defended this, and we'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah. Well, someone actually said in one of the chats me and Guthrum are also in. They said, you know, that video popped up in it was a page they pointed out. It popped up on a page that they follow, and in a HEMA group, I think. So it's gone in so many random places.
Yeah. But regardless of periods, period reenacted, of whether it's reenactment, LARP, HEMA, HMB, Eastern, Western, whatever, regardless of where it's been shared, everyone has had the same reaction of that's fucked.
Yeah.
Which is encouraging because clearly
even people who are non-reenactors can tell.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Somebody shared it into my World of Tanks clan, going, have you seen this? Like, is this what you get up to on the weekend? I'm like, fuck no.
I'm hoping this actually inevitably ends up along the lines of the chair meme. Because I know it sounds stupid, all right, but I can go onto any number of bloody websites and somewhere someone's going to post that fucking chair meme of you.
Yeah,
but I want this to have the same kind of impact.
Also, I think I wanted to have the same kind of impact as that Russian training video where he hits the guy through the shield. I think we mentioned it in a previous podcast. Like, so people who even are loosely connected to the scene know it as a don't do this. You know?
Yeah.
I would even go as far to say that this was more serious than the arm.
Yeah, because that was
because they're getting skulled. They're getting knocked over the head. Whereas an arm, it repairs itself most of the time, and it's not like
and anyone can look at a video of some crazy Russians and go, they're crazy Russians.
Yeah,
I think is also another point. Like this is in the UK reenactment scene, and it's a group that does events and goes to, and does these multi-period battles.
And here's a point: multi-society as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And because you were there, I've got other friends that were there. I was very nearly there myself. Yeah. I could have quite easily been the guy on the receiving end of that axe.
Yeah. Well, the thing is as well, it was a lovely event apart from that. Genuinely, one of my favourite events that year, and it's a real shame that it was clouded by it.
I just love that Guthrum pulled the I could have been at 9/11 on us.
You don't know, man. You weren't there.
If my car hadn't broken down, I would. Sorry.
If I had some fucking trousers, I would have been there.
Yeah. So let's get constructive about this.
Yes.
Because everyone and their mothers has looked at the video and gone, cunt. There's me demonetized already. But yeah, they've sworn, they've insulted the guy.
Goatworn Armband cancelled.
Everyone's had their say on that's foolish, that's ridiculous, that's awful, what an idiot. But I feel it's worth breaking down exactly what went wrong here, because this isn't just one thing. There's several points, and we need to go through them. So with that in mind, just to lay down some ground rules, we're not going to be naming and shaming the guy. That's already been done elsewhere, and we don't want this to be part of that aspect. We want
it shouldn't be as a witch hunt. I think the important thing to take away is that look at this video as a lottery of what not to do.
Yeah,
and just make sure that isn't what the legacy
this
is.
Never happens again. Yeah. So because the reason I want to kind of get constructive on it is because I've seen we briefly mentioned that there are about a handful of people who've gone, oh no, that's okay. If there was any injury, it was down to their helmets, and just excuse it. And I feel that to giving the benefit of the doubt in some cases, they're not quite understanding what's so dangerous here.
That's the issue, isn't it?
Yeah,
they don't have, and I'll be pretty brutal with them. They don't have the brain capacity to understand what's wrong. If you have, the thing is, and it's across any period, any hobby you do. Okay, if you do something wrong but you think it's right, but 10 people tell you it's wrong, maybe you're not right. Maybe they're right. It's not like it's a standout of it's only a couple of us saying what they did is stupid. No, it's people from across communities. Yeah. Well, literally thousands of people have seen this video now. I can go and see where it's been shared, and I've gone in, and funny enough, I've gone in and actually replied to people on their personal pages and stuff where it was shared as just decent things, and kind of talk to them a little bit, and unanimously, I'd say 99.9% of all people that have seen the post is like, no, that's fucking awful.
I think there was also a couple of really big pages that shared it, like 220k plus likes.
Yeah, Medieval Life and
that's one of them. Yeah,
is a prominent one. I'm a big fan of them. But yeah, so let's start with the really obvious one. And this has been a source of some of the debate on there because some people have argued that the axe was not sharp. We can put up some pictures here and here that show very clearly that is a sharp photo. Sharp photo.
Photo. Hey, that's a sharp photo. Looking
of
sharp.
A high definition axe. No. So
as an aside, I was there. He came up to our camp, showed it to us, and it was sharp. It wasn't sharp, but it was a clearly semi-sharp axe, non-rounded corners, and a tapered edge. And one of our members saw him splitting wood with it, or he mentioned to us that he had been splitting wood with it. So
the people who have said that it was sharp. The people who were there that weren't part of his group, more on that later, have said that it was sharp. And more importantly, these photos here very clearly show a sharp axe that has not been rounded down. So that is the first issue, that he has taken an axe that was sharp onto the field. That is possibly one of the biggest no-nos in reenactment.
It's one of the things that will get you pretty quickly kicked out of groups as well.
Well, obviously not. That's the problem.
Yeah,
that shouldn't be a
in
thing.
This case.
I'm going to be straight and honest. It's difficult to come up to say this because I can't fathom why taking a sharp on the field is at all. And even if you buy a sharp and you blunt it, it's never the same. The metal isn't. And
here's the thing as well. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Here's the thing as well. Generally, I like my fellow reenactors. I think they're nice people, and I don't want to hurt them. So I can't fathom why someone else would think, and when bearing in mind, I've had a couple of guys in the groups I'm in bring sharps onto the field by accident, usually eating knives they've forgotten they have on them. That's one thing. If you forget, because bearing in mind everyone who's done that has been apologetic, instantly removed it from themselves, etc. Right? Yeah. But the fact is, that is a different context.
Yeah, I mean, that's cutlery. We all keep sharps on ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
In living history and whatever, it happens. You have them tied onto your belt and you forget. That happens. That is understandable. But taking a log splitting axe,
I just don't get it. It's not. There's no respect for the fellow people in the field. No, I mean, where's the? I don't like doing the whole trope, but where's the fucking humanity?
Yeah, like, won't somebody please think of the children?
Yeah,
but I purchased, as you guys, I said a little while ago, I purchased a couple of sharp items for my kind of living history kit. I have a sharp axe. I have a very, very sharp knife, among a couple of other things. So
you're looking sharp too.
Thank you. Using these guys as logic, they would potentially buy this and then blunt it and then go out to the field. I mean, I've done this when I first got into reenactment. I purchased a really, really, really nice sword, but I blunted it. It was completely blunt. I took it out, and within 5 minutes, the blade actually snapped. It wasn't a cheap sharp either. It was actually made by a very good craftsman. But obviously it wasn't made to be fought with,
Yeah.
And I have a similar feeling that some of these axes people buy are of the similar kind of.
Well, the sharp blades take nothing like the amount of abuse as blunt ones.
Exactly.
Or they're not supposed to, anyway.
That's one of the reasons I don't make blunt weapons.
We spoke about that. Yeah.
I don't trust my heat treatment processes to withstand what blunts go through.
The part of it that just to touch on or refer to something the Shire Reeve said about where's the respect and where's the humanity. Usually there's quite a big deal made about checking your weapons or having them checked for even burrs. When they've been seen a bit of use during the day, burrs come up on weapons. It happens. You just make sure that they are not. There's no jagged bits of metal on them. And usually, reenactors who give a damn will do that thoroughly to their own weapons and not just leave it to either a marshal or their own group
to
leader.
find it.
I can't understand.
Field.
I can speak for two different styles of fighting. In the Vike, at every single event we've been to, my group leader has made us, before we march off, he's checked like all of our weapons. If he doesn't, like the armorer guy does. And then when we line up at battle, we usually have a couple of people from the society. I'm talking over the Vike now. We'll literally check every single weapon before we go in. But not just if you've got a spear. If you've got an axe on you, they want that out to check. You've got a sea axe.
They do it with regular as well. You have to get into a line before the MAA, the Master at Arms, and the Master at Arms and the Master at Arms deputies will check every single person before they go through, and you're not allowed on that arena before you do.
Yeah. Now, something I want to bring up here because we're talking about marshals and weapons checks. Ultimately, the buck stops with the individual who brought it on, because marshals can miss stuff. Let's be fair. They're trying to check up to 100 people at a time, maybe more. Hastings, I know it's left to group leaders because of the amount of people involved.
But even at Hastings, I've heard them ask maybe 5 to 6 times, has everybody checked their weapons? Has everybody checked the weapons?
Yeah. Well, yes.
It's almost like a bit of a meme if you're talking about it.
Yeah. But then everybody does. We joke about it is because, they're asking us even though we've done it. They don't need to ask what they do.
Also, as an aside, most things, like most problems that come up with weapons and armor, you can fix with authentic looking equipment. A block of Gary Flex doesn't detract from any environment, right? You have a block, you can hide it in your sleeve or in some of the bit, get it out quickly, sort out that bit of kit and then put it away. You can use a hammer, an authentic hammer to put in rolls and stuff, and you can use abrasive materials that aren't as much of an eyesore.
But we're talking about bird weapons here. We're not talking about shot.
I mean, that's the other point, isn't it? This is what we need to kind of get across here, is that mistakes happen. You can walk on with a cutlery or an eating knife still at your belt. You can go on with a slightly or you attend muster with a slightly bird weapon, but usually someone else picks it up and it's not really that big an issue. His group leader must have known he owned this axe, must have been able to recognize it, and yet did nothing to say to this guy, hang on mate, I think you've picked up your sharp. And that's just assuming the guy made a mistake, and I don't think he did. I think he knew it was. Well, someone showed pictures. There were a couple of people. There was a guy that showed pictures of him from previous events with the same axe on the field, and it was still sharp, obviously, because it was beforehand. And there were someone else whose reaction to seeing this video is basically, oh yeah, he does this all the time.
Yeah.
And that says it fucking all, really.
The photo I've seen is that he was in. There's a photo of him with this axe, sat right next to his group leader, in the commanders' meeting. Now you can take any old thing you like into a commanders' meeting. You show off. I'm not going to lay that at anyone else's feet other than this guy and his commanding officer. That just that demonstrates that this axe, they know he owns this axe, and they let him on the field with it.
It's also worth noting that when when we approached his group leader about it afterwards, he conveniently had a blunt axe in his hand and said, "Oh no, he wasn't supposed to be using that one. He was supposed to be using, borrowing this one."
You know,
And
maybe I didn't mean to hit that person in the car, or he wasn't supposed to hit that person. Or
yeah,
maybe I wasn't supposed to hit that person on the head of an axe. No, but you fucking did.
Yeah,
and that's the
exactly.
Point. You
it's
did
like,
do it.
So, and what got me is he tried to claim that the chap in question was supposed to borrow this blunt one when there is so much evidence showing that that's simply not true.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get back to accountability at the end because it's there is just no excuse for going on with a sharp axe and not immediately, but by either your own recognition of it or your group leaders or someone in your group going, "Dude, you've picked up your sharp. What are you doing?" Because giving even the maximum benefit of the doubt, at some point, even if you walked on with a sharp axe past the marshals, past your group leader, and didn't think of it yourself, you must have realized at some point. And this guy obviously didn't. You see the video; he carries on fighting with it through to the entire. The
video is 2 different fights, by the way, at different points of the day.
So he does it twice.
Yeah, so the first 2 hits are the first fight, which is the Viking Age fight, and then the rest of them were in the multi-period battle.
Jesus. So okay, so we can rule out that he accidentally took on his axe then. This was very much, he knew what the axe was, and okay, we're going to have to come back to that in accountability because obviously this is going to be tie into a few other things at the end.
Yeah.
Now, that on its own, knowingly taking on a sharp is that get someone on shit duty at the very least for the day, if not having to retrain. What he did next, almost exclusively, head and face shots. So let's leave aside that it was sharp for a moment.
I don't think I saw a single body shot in the video.
No, I know this compilation.
Oh no, I edited it down, and there was even in the original footage that I was sent by the guy who had the video. There is nothing there. It's just those are the only hits in the whole of the 7 minutes or so of the videos.
Yeah.
So he literally is just going around doing headshots and face shots.
Which, yeah, I know headshots, even in Western, with some caveats, are allowed.
They can be done on, say, prior arrangement, but
display. It's commonly referred to the display fight.
Yeah,
it's when a headshot's done.
But I don't think any system allows, apart from maybe Battle of Nations, but this clearly is used as an excuse. I don't think
like I say, we had Battle of Nations people looking at the video and going, "Wow, that's fucked."
Yeah, but I don't think any sensible group or society encourages or allows people to go around belting people over the back of the head when they're not looking. Because we've even got rules about shots from behind, simply because you can end up forcing someone onto a weapon that they're facing.
The general thing we say is if you start fighting someone from behind, make them aware first.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have a like, let's say you've flanked a line and you start to go behind it. You can get the kill on someone if you do like a proper murder stroke kind of display kill, but that's not the same kind of thing, obviously. Like,
with us we allow we do a lot of flanking in Eastern, as you can probably tell. That's, our lines are a little bit different to West for the fighting style. And with us, if you do manage to get behind someone, which this isn't a line fight, this is a free fight, as we can tell, but it's a stab on the ass, basically. Don't touch the fucking spine, don't touch the head. You fucking either tap them on top of the head at a 45-degree angle, which is, if you look at a helmet straight on, 45 degrees up, which is right at your ridges, or you slap them on the ass. There's nowhere else is acceptable. And we have kicked people out of our events and groups in the past 2 years, and I can think of 2 people who've done so, because they would stab people in the back with them. I don't know if any of you guys know, but a couple of years ago at Hastings, a guy took a spear in his fucking spine.
Yeah.
So I won't name him, obviously, or anything, but like it happens, and it can nearly fuck people over for life.
Yeah. As an aside,
there's no excuse.
That is the correct reaction to unsafe play. You remove that person from that situation. You know,
a mistake can happen. Don't get me wrong. Someone can move. Like some of us, you know, might be able to tell if someome's behind us without hearing. You might move, and you might get a bad one. But that's when 2 people.
But in terms of repeated action, at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, particularly with something so heavy as an axe, which is probably the most dangerous weapon we take on the field because it doesn't need to be sharp to kill. Not only this is going to be possibly phrase of the day is not only, or it gets better. Not only was he hitting them from behind in surprise attacks over the back of the head, he was doing it on the run. There is no way to control your shots doing that.
He was sprinting.
Yeah, there's no way to control your shots when you run and then jump into a shot. That is madness. You can't pull a shot while you are jumping. You are in midair. You've got a way to brace yourself to not go through with that swing.
What gets me is if he was doing normal shots, like if he was slicing him across the back or something, he wouldn't need to jump. He's jumping to do the headshots.
Yeah.
It's so just ridiculous.
It's even with a blunt weapon, that running around, belting people by surprise over the back of the head, it goes against everything that you're supposed to be doing on the field. It defeats the entire point, is that it's a combat situation. Now, yeah, okay, realistically, back then, if you saw a bunch of people with your back to you, you'd go around chopping heads. But that's not what reenactment is. Reenactment is a display and a show for the audience.
People can argue all day the benefits of how much skill different combat systems actually require. You know, Eastern versus Western versus Huskarl, etc. But at the end of the day, this has no skill. Anyone could do what he's doing.
Yeah.
But the sensible ones, the good ones, don't.
Yeah, but that's why. You know, these sort of people, and I know I bitch about rules a lot. I'm, you know, the rebel, I guess, but realistically, no matter what we do, even in Eastern, like we do have rules. Like we do have certain things that people have to achieve before we're allowed to go onto the field. And you know, the Viking, Regia, and you know, a couple of societies out in Europe do the same. And this is why people come together in the UK and create the 3 fuck bands of England, because they've got no rule system in place. You know, my missus, God love her, she's never held a weapon. Imagine going and putting her on the field with someone and just going, yeah, you can just poke these people with a spear.
Well, that's something I saw a comment, and actually quite a few comments of the same vein, inquiring whether this was a member of audience who just like put themselves in kit and just joined in. They did not recognize this individual as a reenactor. A, because his kit shit. Let's just get that one off my chest.
My favorite one really was that guy who when the group leader started defending him said it was something along the lines of, "I'm sorry, but you don't seem to have any leadership qualities to me."
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah. There is nothing correct about the way he was going around and conducting himself. Never mind the sharp axe in the first place. That there were injuries waiting to happen, whether he had a blunt weapon or not, behaving like that. And as we see in the video, accidents did happen. He hit someone who was already on the ground, which, by the way, is a no-no.
And in the bollocks,
and in the bollocks,
he practically burst the guy's pods.
Yeah. And he didn't know the guy. He did not know the guy personally.
With ball shots, I hate him. We've all joked about my golden hands before at some point, I swear. I fucking detest them. However, some rule sets is fine. Eastern bollocks fine. It pisses people off when you get hit in the bollocks.
Yeah.
Okay. Even in Western, I can't wear them because I dislike the feeling, but I always suggest men to wear a cup. Just in case you take a spear to the bollocks anyway. But
yeah, I've been slapped in the pods.
Yeah, and in display fights at the end, if like two people are fighting, I don't want to get involved. Like I have gone around to people and pretended to stab them in the gonads. But it's mostly me going down. I can't just, go down on a knee, holding my sword at the blade, down that way. Yeah, to people I know. Imagine thinking it's okay to run up to someone and tap them in the bollocks with an axe.
Yeah,
when they're already down as well.
A front heavy weapon.
Fully already dead on the ground. What's the point?
Yeah. Actually, that's a good point. Is the finishers that he was doing, like that second guy in, he does 2 blows to the front of his helmet. So that's a face shot.
Yeah.
If he was lower, if he had slipped, because the helmets are angled for that reason, is to deflect blows down.
That's a smooth ocular as well, so it could have just skipped into his fucking mouth.
Yeah, that could have been teeth. Why the fuck would you ever do that? You have the time. The guy's going down. He's not like fighting back at this point. It's a finisher. You have all the time in the world, and you see him do a draw cut across the guy's throat as well.
That's a big no-no.
You Absolutely don't do that, even with blunt weapons, because of the aforementioned terms.
If there's a nick, it will fucking rip.
Exactly. If you have to do that, the way I was taught, if you really must do that,
it's against your hand.
You put your hand between the guy's flesh and your blade. So if you are being an idiot, you're cutting yourself instead.
There's a number of ways you can do it. The hand between the blade and the throat. Things like... exactly. That is the ideal.
Just don't do it. There's so many other ways to have a better finish.
Exactly. Safest way to do it, just not to bother. Don't.
Yeah.
That was the very first thing I learned in my first year of reenactment, was how to do a throat cut. And only to do it to someone I knew who was expecting it.
Yep.
Not someone who is in the middle of falling
That's
over
how I see it as well.
After I've twatted them in the face.
It should be restricted to choreographed events.
In general, any kind of finisher should always not actually be putting the force on the other person. Like if you want to do the whole like sword strike down, you actually put it into the earth, like just so it's not actually hitting them.
Yeah.
For example,
I've done gags where I've got someone on the floor and I go, right, who wants a new coin purse? And I mock like cutting their scrotum off. But I've never ever considered wellying an axe, but like into the ground between their legs. Sure. Even when I'll flatten the blade as well, just to make sure I do not make that contact, because axes are bloody heavy. But yeah, it's just because he made contact. He wanted the guy to feel it.
Yeah.
So,
and trust me, I know him. He felt it.
Yeah. The guy who got hit in the pods commented and said
it was all right,
but it's what could have happened,
Yeah.
And what did happen, which is a guy was knocked unconscious. Because he did a jumping swing into someone who was, by the way, you can see in the video, already getting down to, because he'd been killed.
Oh, is this the coif?
Yeah. So we'll get to what he was wearing in a second, because it does bear some mentioning. But you see him drop. You see the guy just drop, and it's quite sickening to watch.
Yeah, it's the transition between intentionally going down and just down.
Yeah. So it is worth mentioning at this point that the guy who was knocked out was only wearing a padded coif. However, that is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Do we know, like, I know you said you were there, Alec. I'm curious to know out of my personal interest than anything else. So, from my understanding, for events I've partaken as an officer of, okay, we tend to have some brief discussions beforehand on a Facebook group or some shit, okay? Then usually we'll meet up and we'll have an officers meeting at the event, and then usually a little bit of a chat or a meeting before the actual fight. That day, even if you weren't there, was there one with all of the groups, especially in a multi-period?
Yeah, there was a commanders meeting in the morning.
Okay, which means, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt here, which means the rules of engagement would have been explained.
Oh, well, the thing is about this as well, the multi-period battle at the end of the day, I wouldn't even call it a proper Western fight. It was a laugh. It was a laugh. Most of the people, well, I'd say 90% of the people on the field were safe, doing the right thing. There were people with firearms on the field, and they were safer than this cunt.
So that means there's even less need for him to be racing around doing headshots then.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't even a competitive thing. It was just an end of the day.
It was a laugh.
Because obviously, adequate protection is important for when things go wrong. So, when that club does end up swinging wild and clattering you in the head by mistake, you do want to be wearing a decent helmet when that happens, because it happens. But it shouldn't even need to be a consideration here, because he shouldn't have been doing what he was doing. It doesn't matter whether the guy had a helmet, had a coif on, or was bareheaded. This guy should not have been running around pegging people in the back of the head.
Yeah, and I think the thing as well, like, he was clearly only hitting guys that had helmets on, but the fact is he was going so fast that he couldn't process the fact the guy had a metal coif, which means he should not have been doing it in the fucking first place.
Yes, you hit to your opponent's armor. If you don't think they're wearing armor, hit them accordingly. Because, even though some of us, in the Vikings wear padding underneath, for all intents and purposes, it just looks like we've got tunics on. So when we do mixed meds, the medieval lot are told, look, some of these guys are just wearing linen. You're used to fighting gambesons at minimum and padded jacks. These guys don't have that. Be aware. And usually there's not a problem, because, you fight to the armor. If they've got a bit more armor on, hit them a bit harder, But yeah, this guy didn't stop to take into consideration what his opponent was wearing. And I say opponent. The guy didn't know he was coming. It wasn't his opponent. He was going down. There was his victim. Yeah, he didn't know he was coming. He wasn't expecting it. This guy was not fighting him. Needless. Fucking needless.
Yeah, I believe he was going down to an off-screen rifle shot, basically. So, someone had pointed his musket at him, shot him, and he was doing the whole fake death thing, right?
Yeah.
And then the person we're talking about came up behind him, and yeah.
So we've said all this, headshots, running around, belting people. That is bad enough with a blunt. He did this with a sharp.
No excuse.
There's no excuse. It's just a cumulation of a lot of poor quality behavior. Is absolutely needless and quite frankly, in my view, unforgivable. Because somebody messaged me the other day and said, are people being a bit harsh? Because everyone makes mistakes in reenactment. And I agree with that sentiment. And he said, I've got a thing that says everyone's entitled to one big mistake, because that shit happens. And if you feel bad about, and you can learn from. And to an extent, I agree with that as well. However, I would have said that going on the field in the first place with knowingly taking a sharp is his big mistake.
Yeah.
That first hit.
And we know he has previous, because we know people who've said, like, oh yeah, this is his standard MO.
Yeah. But each one of those headshots with a sharp axe would be his big mistake.
Yeah.
You know, his big one get out of jail free card, one mistake per reenactment career. Each one of those would have been that.
And even then, most headshots people, let's say Western, because obviously Eastern, that's a whole different thing. Western, if people do headshots, it's a mistake. You both look at each other, you say, you know, are you all right? If everything's okay, you know, if he needs to go off, you go off with him, etc. Right? It's just courtesy. And you feel bad at the end of it. You're like, fuck, you know?
Yeah. Now, so yeah, I don't think that it's too harsh to say this guy should never be on the field again, because this was one big error after one big error after one, and it, you know, how many was it? 8 shots?
Go back on the field again, absolutely. After a couple of months of understanding what he's done,
complete retraining,
doing some proper training, you know, realizing that sometimes we are wrong. I certainly have made mistakes out there fighting, but I'm happy that I've grown from. Okay. And I just think the person in question, you know, need to, a couple of days I've had to reflect on it. And I do feel really bad, actually, for putting this up and obviously people understanding that it's him. But at the exact same point, you do it to yourself. And he needs to learn from this. The same as I hope that if I do something stupid and it's recorded, that I get, you know, get told and learn from it. You have to.
Genuinely, like, you said he's a nice guy in person, and I agree. When I actually spoke to him, he was fine. I didn't have a problem with him as a character. It's just what he's done.
Yeah, and that leads quite nicely onto the next bit, is accountability, because you say obviously, you know, someone can make a mistake, learn from it, etc. We got comments from his group and his group leader trying to say that the axe wasn't sharp. You can see in the photos, it's sharp. There's no argument here. There's no interpretation one way or the other. It is a sharp axe. They tried to say it wasn't sharp. They tried to say that, oh, that 5-inch gash left on the back of a guy's head is, oh, that's a pressure wound.
Which could happen, but the thing is, we found the fucking axe.
Yeah, that they made excuses. They did not go, look, this is one of our guys. It was dealt with. He was retrained, etc., blah blah blah. We're really sorry. His group condoned this. His group allowed this to happen, and this is where I take some accountability away from the guy. Because he has been in an environment where all of this shit is encouraged. It has been allowed and it has been facilitated. And that, I think, is the biggest thing to come out of this, is that it's not just one guy who went on a, you know, on his own kind of Todd. It reflects on his group. You know, his group don't see anything wrong with this. And as it happens, they through their statements going, no, we're okay with this, they've now been blacklisted across the country, not just him, but his group. So yeah, it's the way this happened was this guy was led, you know, to think that headshots are okay. You know, without prior agreement, that taking on an axe that has not been rounded off at all is okay, and to run around, you know, tapping people on the back of the head instead of actually, you know, fighting is okay. Now, I don't think. I think that his group train headshots and have the expectation that whatever their rule is the same for everyone else. And obviously that's not the case. I don't care if you train Eastern, Western, whatever, you play by the events rules.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I went to Hastings and in the middle of, you know, the second clash of the Normans, I pull out a folding chair and do what I did to the knights to William, Duke of Normandy, I wouldn't expect to get away with that.
Oh my god! He's got the chair! Oh no!
Through the table, by God! I wouldn't expect to get away with the same shit that I pull with my mates at an event where we've agreed to that at a big event like Hastings. That's ridiculous. And I think it's the same here. So, what are people's kind of, I guess, not closing thoughts, but thoughts to kind of, what's your general impression of the results of this? What do you think that this is a?
It certainly left quite a few impressions on people's heads.
Oof. Yeah, oof. Fehu in chat.
F in chat.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you might be able to tell. I'm struggling for what more to say because the video speaks for itself. And we've extrapolated, I guess, the wider context of what went wrong here. But ultimately, this is everything not to do in reenactment.
I'm speechless by it.
Yeah.
If someone did this in Regia, what would be the protocol?
They'd be kicked out.
Yeah.
If they did it once, I think they'd get away with it, but they'd have to do like a lot of training. They'd have to have someone watch them the whole time. We had a guy, I think it was 2019 Islip, which is one of the national training events. He was flailing his spear around like an absolute nut job. Several people, and lots and lots of people reported him to training officers on the day, and they said that they got all the reports and stuff, and they fed back to him. But the problem is, he didn't listen. I even said to him at the end of the day, like, obviously I know, a lot of people have said, like, how you're doing, it's not great, but don't worry about it. You'll get better. It's all a learning process. And he said, no, it's all right. I was still winning though, wasn't I? Like, what?
Nope.
And please don't take this the wrong way, but the Vike and the Regia's rule systems are not set up to win. They're set up to put on good events for the public. If you want to win, you do your private shit. Usually.
Yeah, and also I think it's important to say that the real drama happened at the Jorvik in the same year. Apparently he was doing the same shit, different day, and people repeatedly told him not to. He still did it. And the thing is that people were genuinely trying to help him improve and stuff. And then he just started accusing everyone of being racist for some reason, even though he was white.
Bizarre.
And he was basically trying to claim that somehow Regia was racist because there weren't many non-white people there at the time or something.
Oh, that old chestnut.
Yeah. And then he fucked off.
Yeah.
So
sounds like good riddance.
Yeah.
What about Eastern?
Go on, mate.
Any examples or any protocol to this sort of thing?
What, in Eastern?
Yeah.
Yeah, mate. I'd probably stick a hammer through his fucking skull. No, we don't allow it. Ego's in everything, and in fact, being a fucking egotistical prick myself, I would say that I take a lot of stuff personally when we're doing it, and I'd say Eastern has a lot of ego because, I'm not gonna shy away from it. We don't shy away from the fact that we do it for fighting. Very little amounts of, in the UK at least, is done for the public. Although we will put a show on, and we do take that sort of stuff out there. But the Eastern scene in the UK is growing. But when we go out to do these events, we do it to fight. And a lot of the people that do it are ex-military, they're bikers, a lot more of them Western. These are people that have fallen into it because they want the brotherhood. It tends to be very macho, very much. Yeah, I can hit fucking hard, and yeah, I love that from Eastern personally.
Sure.
That's what I got into it for. Yeah.
And, so if you're done rubbing your dick, what protocol in there in Eastern is there for?
I'm getting to it. All right, but when we do it, we all have a level of
Ginger midget gets fucked.
We all have a level of like a level of, I suppose, respect for one another. If someone goes out there with the intent to cause harm, which is what this person has done in the video, and what this person sounded like they were doing in the example from Shia Reeve there, to be honest, mate, it wouldn't really last.
No,
it does. I
always say people
don't
like that
stick
don't
around.
Last.
So, yeah, from the independent group perspective, actually, my leadership have commented on this and said that this guy would never play with us again and would be blacklisted. And certainly, if he wasn't part of us, we'd blacklist, and it has now happened. It's been blacklisted up and down the country, his group. In my first group, we had some rules about the way we conducted ourselves, both on the field and not, when we're representing our group. And if we're ever to bring our group into disrepute through our actions on the field whilst representing our group, we'd be done. That'd be it. That'd be us out.
I suppose I got given a piece of advice, and it falls into what you said just then, to be honest with you, Goatworn. But it's, and we joke about this a lot, but even in Western, back before everything I got into Eastern, it was always told that your honor is you, all right, but your honor is there for the group as well.
Yeah.
And I don't give a shit what anybody says. If I fight against one person from a group and I have a really bad experience, I'm not going to consider that group very well. And it could be that they're actually some of the safest and nicest fighters. And I think, and I would hope people would do the same kind of opposite, because if you have individual fighting prowess in a group determines kind of what the group's kind of skill level is and what the group accepts. And if they accept someone on a field donking helmets, like our fella here, then, no doubt about it, then the rest of them are obviously going to accept some form of absolute mediocre fighting.
People have looked at this and now want nothing to do with his group. And quite reasonably so, because they let this happen. He's brought the whole thing into disrepute, and what was encouraging, like I said earlier, seeing the reaction and response from everyone else was that everyone really does not want this on the scene, because the mediocre Icelander, who's a fan of the page and has messaged us a few times.
We've got him next week as well, haven't we, as a guest?
Yeah, he's our guest next week, actually. And he'll tell us more about it then. But he's been really angry because this sort of thing is why we get limitations on how we do our hobby. This increases our insurance.
Bear in mind as well, he's from Norway. He lives in Norway, and he's been telling me about like loads of weapons regulations that are coming in that are getting them like shut down, because crossbows, they can't have proper crossbows, as an example. They're getting bladed weapons laws in now that are really, really gonna fuck them over, and this sort of thing doesn't help the legislation. I mean, thank God we have Naries over here protecting our interests with the law.
All right, I think we've said most of what we really want to say about this. I know we've all commented on our own pages about this thing as well. How about we cheer ourselves up with farb of the week?
Oh, hey.
Oh, yes.
We got a juice.
The idea of being cheered up by a farb of the week is just...
Well, it's a bit of fun, isn't it? But where's our farb of the week? I think we picked a right one.
It's in podcast content.
Ah, goodness me.
Oh, all right. Boy. I edited the image, and I've just been reminded about it. Yeah.
Oh, boy. just...
Imagine living as an animal your whole life on the edge to be wrapped around a man's crotch.
Like, what?
Just dangled over a useless bouldering.
You know,
How shit of a berserker do you have to be to go out into the wilderness and then come back with not a bear pelt, but a couple of fox skins?
Is that fox skin? I don't even think that's a
it looks
fox.
like maybe mink.
Yeah,
those
I
are
was
fox
gonna say,
skins.
even
Yeah, those are
smaller,
fox skins.
They look a bit small. They look too small for fox skin. That looks like mink or ermine.
I was going to say it looked like mink. To
Maybe
me,
a
yeah.
stoat
fair
or a
enough.
weasel.
Yeah.
I just,
too small.
I just would have thought like, because obviously, like a lot of these sort of ermine, mink, etc., are actually authentic as lining furs. So I would
not like that.
no, totally. He's like a frontiersman.
Yeah, he's like, I went out in the wilderness and I killed these snake rats with my bare hands. Oh, could be for you.
Snake rats.
Snake rats.
Carpet sharks.
Carpet sharks. Yeah, why would you kill them? They're adorable.
So, pelts and furs we've done numerous times.
Yeah.
But that Thor's hammer. So,
The
I mean,
one in his axe or his waist?
the one at his waist. We'll get to the axe. First off, it's a giant wooden Mjolnir that's quite clearly modern in design. But I believe, Guthrum, you have a picture of where it originated.
Yes, it appears he's broken his cheap walking stick. Well, I say cheap. It depends how much you're willing to spend on a walking stick. Is 50 quid a cheap walking stick? But anyway, it's the carved terminal from a walking stick that is available from GDFB, which he's just got stuck in his belt for some bloody reason. So he's either cut
It's
it
an elite
or
accessory.
snapped it and just said, you know what, this will look good on my character. No, mate, it doesn't. Stick it on the fire.
I'm going to role play as this guy in one of our arguments. So somebody tell me to get my kit better.
Get your kit better.
Can't, mate. It's too expensive. Could have spent my money on GDFB stuff instead.
But this is my ancestors' war. So that axe, there's a Thor's hammer in there where there shouldn't be.
Should be a cross.
do you want to explain why there shouldn't be a Thor's hammer?
Don't know what you're on about, mate. I think there should be. I think it looks just really good, and it makes him honor his ancestors. So how dare you be such a hater?
Bugs Bunny, no meme. No, the axe that actually is of a type that only came in way after Christianization. So there is literally no way it could exist.
Am I wrong at thinking it's from Gotland?
Yes, the original
yes,
is
it
from
is,
Gotland.
Yeah, I thought it was from Gotland.
Well,
yes.
well, there's a few kicking around, but
yeah.
to my knowledge, the most famous find is from
yeah.
Gotland. Yes.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yes, and that had a lovely cross in it. And we're not even entirely sure they're a practical axe.
Yeah.
It could have been this isn't a specific term or anything, but a bearing axe, a bit like a bearing sword. It's just flamboyant and crazy, and it's like ceremonial
use.
Exactly.
The tunic being short-sleeved.
It's horrible.
I know we went on about sleeveless shirts, but not short. Especially under mail, which is slightly ridiculous. But it does have the advantage of revealing some lovely leather vambraces with iron splints on them.
Fucking garbage. Get in the bog.
Yeah, there's the Vendelier splints, but I believe they're only for the legs.
They look nothing like that, though.
They are wrist and shin.
Wrist and shin.
But there was only one set of the wrist, I think, because the other side would be covered by a shield.
Yeah.
And even then, they're so
I could be wrong,
different.
though. It's been a while since I've looked it up.
And they don't look like that either.
Nothing
Oh,
like
hell no. The originals were a lot more thin, a lot more decorative, very ornate. They had some lovely chisel work on them.
And a lot more metal to leather than this has. Like, you know.
Well, obviously the leather didn't preserve, but last
No,
I
but
checked,
they would have been
the
connected by
thinking,
leather strips, most likely.
Yeah, that's the current thinking. Last I heard.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this right now. Let me just bring it up. I need to zoom in ever so briefly. But
Enhance.
for CSI in just decent things, but like I can see pixels. I've zoomed in so much, but like I'm looking at this and looking at the way his arms are. I don't think he could I don't think he put his arms straight in those tall.
No,
like at all. And I'm judging by the way they're up on the wrist as well. They're not they're not made very well. Not only are they shit, but they're not actually made very well.
The pre-bent elbow piece, basically. Yeah. They do go kind of straight, but I know what you mean. Yeah, it's just shit all around, really.
Yeah.
Would it be fair to say that this kit is representative of people putting a preconceived notion ahead of archaeology?
Yes.
100%.
I would expect to see something like this in the Assassin's Creed Valhalla game, because it's made to look overly interesting. There's a lot going on, but it's why.
What gets me is there's like actual
so much there.
Sourced ones have things going on, just historic. Like you have details, you have jewelry, you have armor, you have different leatherwork, but it's not bollocks.
Yeah. He's got, like we've mentioned, he's got furs tucked into a baldric that doesn't appear to connect anything for no apparent reason. They serve no function. Like jewelry can serve no function, but it's pretty. That is not pretty. That is hideous.
This is actually something that we do in LARP, is when we layer up, just to add some extra things, just to make people look a bit more interesting, even if it doesn't make sense, because, LARP is LARP. That's what's happened here. It's just extra additions and festooning, fetishes and extra little details. That
is fetish is the word?
Yeah, fetish is... It can don't be immature now. Oh fuck, we've lost it.
So this man has quite a few fetishes, then, does he?
He does have quite a few fetishes on him.
Oh dear.
And on that note, shall we the score? Before we start being shaming.
5 out of 100 fetishes.
I'm gonna give him half a mink skin out of 10, because that's too much fur.
Just decent
anymore.
I still work in Tostitos. Just getting one Tostito.
Oh, you're using the old units.
Yes, mate. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go for 1 in 1,000 ancestors, actually Norse.
Yeah.
What one's kind of pushing it though.
Yeah. Well, it's upsetting, isn't it? Well,
still reeling from that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. Hopefully that's been somewhat helpful in expanding a little on this video that's gone round, because it does bear discussion and it does potentially impact on our hobby if people consider that to be the standard of what we do. And it clearly isn't. We are all distancing ourselves from it.
But that's from the biggest event in the country at that time of year.
Yeah.
Of course it's... fuck, I'm done, actually. I can't be bothered. It fucking defeated me. This has actually defeated me.
Yeah. And actually...
do you need a hug?
Just to go back to accountability quickly, we will say it here. We put no blame whatsoever on the event organizers or anyone involved with running the event. This person has, damaged that event, but people shouldn't think poorly of the event just because.
Honestly, the event was bloody fantastic. One of my favourite ones last year, and I think of this as a little bit of a shit stain on it. But it's him, it's not the event.
Yeah.
And genuinely the best champions fight I've ever had was the same day at that event. It was fantastic fun. So
if you obviously we're not going to put names in here because of the aforementioned reasons, but if you know that event that it took place at because you found out or someone's told you, continue supporting that event. Be better reenactors. Give them more to work with so they don't have to rely on these shithouses to make numbers each year. So I think that's a good point to end on. Next week, we're going to have the mediocre Icelander, which promises to be quite an interesting guest. But in the meantime, it is a thank you from myself, Goatworn Armband, from Guthrum of Norvik, Just Eastern Things, who is, we're going to check on him, make sure he isn't hanging himself for this, and the Shire Reeve.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
See you all again next week.
Have a good one.
God, you can sense the drain it's had on us, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this oppressive heat doesn't help. Bloody warm.
Help! I'm being repressed.